Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Welcome to the Ear Law Podcast. I am your host, Chaz Stumbo. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be a hot one. So today, tonight, this morning, wherever you're watching from, whatever time zone, I've got a good show for you tonight. So we're going to find out what in the hell demonology is. What's it mean? What's it all about? We're going to find out. We're also going to find out how to deal with it and how you can protect yourself from it. So I am going to bring on a friend of mine. Her name is Farah Rose Perry, and she is a riot. Oh my gosh, she's a riot. So let's bring her on right here. I see her taking a sip of her go-go juice. So let's bring her on right now.
Okay, my go-go juice happens to be old lady cranberry juice.
All right.
I know, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm a little boring tonight. I'm not tipping back my, Janis Joplin whiskey or anything. I'm just
I thought about that because my wife just bought some. I'm kind of a tequila guy, but it has to be decent tequila. That Cuervo 1800. So it has to be decent. It has to be decent tequila, and she bought some. And I was gonna just get a sipping glass over here just to take the edge off, and didn't do it. So I'll have to grab some when we take our little break here shortly.
Excuse me. Of course, your wife is waiting just for you. I mean, my hubby's got some really nice Pendleton waiting for me too. So aren't we lucky? We've got great spouses.
Oh yeah. See, you always marry up.
That's right. That's a fact. Anybody listening, listen to Chaz. Never marry down, always marry up. If you have a choice.
Right.
If you don't, suck it up, buttercup, and work harder.
So I interviewed you a couple of years ago, and I had some buddies with me at that time, and it was just an audio podcast. And we were having a bunch, if you remember, we were having a bunch of technical difficulties that night with the audio and crazy stuff. And so we weren't sure. We were just kind of going back and forth on, if it was weather or could it have been something else, So do you ever have problems with like electrical equipment, like being around it?
Basically about 98% of the time, especially when I'm doing podcasts with other people. You can almost guarantee the first time somebody books me on any kind of interview, it could just be an on-the-spot interview, just like a fill-in 15-minute segment, half an hour, cameras are going to go down, batteries are going to die. You just don't know what's going to happen until you get there and somebody's saying, you're lost. Your mic just went dead. Your lights, we can't get you. So I kind of, that's why I was telling you, hurry, send me the link. If something could go wrong, we're going to prevent it. But hey, Fortunately, tonight, you know what? Smooth sailing. You never know.
Yes. So if there's people that obviously are new to this that might not have heard the podcast that we did before. So let's just give me a little 5-minute. Who is Farah? What's Farah all about? If you can do it in 5 minutes.
I'm going to do the condensed version because you know what, Jazz, I found the older I get, the more I can go on. And it's like, hey, we're looking at the 65 hill over there. And it's like, okay, 5 minutes. Basically, who I am has been shaped by a lot of my experiences. And I am what is known as currently practicing a religious demonologist. I work in the Office of Exorcism, Healing, and Deliverance here in Springfield. You can check me out if you don't know who I am. I have been self-taught, self-educated. I have studied with other exorcists. I have been blessed to have been tutored and mentored by many other exorcists. And now I consult to exorcists and various teams of haunting, ghost teams, anywhere from Ireland, Australia, Spain. People might text me or call me, London, and say, hey, I need a second opinion about this. So who I am, the sum total, is really hard to put in a nutshell. However, what I do is basically how Chaz inspired the start of this. What is a demonologist? If you understand what a proctologist is, you understand what an ornithologist is. I am actually not that scary looking, drinking blood kind of backdoor, what is it, the demon naming kind of demonologist. I'm the demonologist that is like, what's that popular detective on the movie? Monk. I'm like the monk of demons. I'm like, there's a footprint there. There's a footprint there. And there's a footprint there. How we find those footprints? Well, as you said, 5 minutes or less. My earliest experience from young childhood was being haunted and oppressed myself just on a regular basis growing up. If it could go wrong and if it was bad, it was going to happen. Whoop, boom, right in my forehead. So for many years, who I am today does not reflect who I was. Today, I am professed, tertiary, religious. I am considered a sister. I am not one of those Carmelites behind the wall wearing a habit sister. I am a sister that is called to live my spirituality and my calling in the world, but not be of the world, if that makes any sense. Early on, my experiences were everything from audible, visual, some physical. And I cut my teeth in high school on the satanic ritual abuse and a lot of the darker parts of hauntings and demonology with some of the worst cults that I've encountered out in Seattle on Queen Anne Hill, the Love Israel cult. And I know, hey, I've got at least 6 decades on me. If you don't remember, this is probably about 4 or 5 decades ago. It was broken up permanently. And this is one of the most horrendous, evil things that people could survive from. That said, all this experience with trying to help people get free of cults, get free of, shall we say, abusive relationships and some of the stuff that they were experiencing, that segued into like a love of wanting to help people. So I went to college thinking, I'm going to take on the world. I'm going to solve people's problem. My esteemed professors, medicate, 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 medicate. I'm a CBT person, cognitive behavioral therapy. All right.
Okay.
We all have free will. We all have minds. So today, more than ever, I dropped out of college. Don't have my degree, folks. I basically love helping people help themselves and helping them get free of any kind of demonic oppression, hauntings, or whatever else they may have.
Okay, so with demonic oppressions and helping people, I'm sure that can manifest in so many different ways. And a lot of people may not even know that they're under some sort of oppression, right?
Very true. And the sad thing is I've got a really just an absolutely, the only thing I can say, God bless this person that I've got for a case right now that I am working with. When you talk about somebody that may be oppressed, Chaz, and is coming to me saying, hey, what's going on? I don't understand this. As opposed to people that are calling me saying, I have got an implant in my third toe and my right ear is picking up unknown alien messages and I'm writing them down. I don't understand the language. And I'm talking, I mean, it seems kind of ridiculous to those of us that know that aliens are basically demons in different forms. And aliens do exist just like demons do, just not in the form that people are aware of them. And just like any sort of psychedelic mushroom, psilocybin, ayahuasca is going to change the perception, demons are able to do that. So in differentiating the mental illness quotient as opposed to what's really going on with the demonic oppression, a lot of times they mirror image. I don't know. Did you ever watch that movie Mirrors with Kiefer Sutherland?
I may have years ago. I'm not sure.
The concept was there was this these entities behind this mirror that were trapped there, and they were trying to get the humans to invite them out. Guess what? Demons do the same thing. Demons are on that other side that most people can't see, and they want people to imitate, mimic, and basically develop a very abusive codependent relationship with them. So when you talk about people saying, hey, I might have a problem, the people that have problems, that have severe oppression, possibly possession, and desperately want help, they're not calling me saying, hey, I've got this and this going on. They fight it, they suffer it, they tough it out until somebody they know and love says, hey, Farah, you're not going to believe this, but you know, my aunt or my cousin, they've been suffering this. What do you think? I'm like, oh my gosh, put them in touch with me. Do they want help? I'd be glad to help them. The people that I do get calls from, is sad to say, Chaz, and I am not in any way, shape, or form denigrating them or making fun of them. But the sad thing is that a lot of times when we discover that there are organic sensitivities in the brain, such as a predisposition to depression, maybe to cutting, maybe to other self-harm, we have to try and fix those behaviors, fix those tendencies before we can get to, in other words, the person has to be reasonable. What is reasonable? They have to understand a penny is a penny, a quarter is a quarter. If they're going to argue with you about that, we can't help them to find out if they're suffering demonic oppression. So, you know, the sad thing is those people contact me all the time and I say, look, I need to speak or look at, you know, when was the last time you had a mental evaluation? You know, how many medications have you been on? How long? What is your current diet look like? Because my latest research and my latest studies with some of the doctors and people that I work with, we're finding out that 90% of our perception, and I'm talking about how you see a car drive down the road, how you hear your neighbor talk to you, how you hear your child talk to you, is right in your gut biome. What does that mean? That our gut biome controls our hypothalamus. It controls every function in our mind as far as perception, understanding, knowledge, how we intake things. Vitamin K, vitamin B. You're low in vitamin D, you're going to be depressed. And isn't that amazing that simple changes in our health can help us feel better, be a little bit clearer, and then I can help you to sort, you know, through that closet of garbage that's going on to figure out what's really going on, Chaz. And it's a lot.
Right. And I know a lot of people may not even realize that something's going on, but there's also that percentage of people that know that something's going on, but realize that it's, you know, affecting them in a negative way, but they're also okay with that. Like they're also just kind of, oh, it is what it is. And, you know, this is what's going on. What can I do about it? I don't know what to do about it. And if you go back years ago when I'm sure you're familiar with Father Malachi Martin, when he was on,
yes.
When he was on with Art Bell, he talked about people
he
being
could talk about anything.
Right. He talked about people being perfectly possessed, where they knew it, didn't have a problem with it, they were okay with it, and whatever happened to everybody else, they didn't care as long as they got what they want. And he said he could walk down the street in New York City with millions of people and look at people and pick those people out. That blows my mind because I know
he's not lying, because I can too.
Yeah.
He's not lying. So it's all over them. And if people had any idea the statistics about the people that are, you know, rock stars, sports stars, politicians, probably at least 75 to 80% of people in the music industry are perfectly possessed.
Right.
In politics, it's closer to 97%.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Exactly. Okay, we don't have to get started. We know what we're talking about here. This is this is just primeval stuff. And the nice thing about, what God has done for us, you're not allowed to be possessed 100% of the time. Some of the time you have to pull your nasty old personality right out your, wherever it is, your wahoo, and try and be nice
Right.
to people occasionally.
Right. And, sometimes the thing now, we've got the internet and we've got Twitter and we've got, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and everybody's got a camera. Everybody's got a video recorder in their hand, right?
Exactly.
So there's no hiding from anything. So I sit here and I scroll through my Twitter feed looking at stuff, and I see things going on and these people saying things. And it just blows my mind that somebody can say these things and act a certain way. And what am I trying to say? They can say these things and act a certain way, and they're okay with it. And then somebody like myself or yourself who sees it and goes, really? That's what you're going with. How can you be this evil? How can you be this? And I'm not naming names. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm trying not to be political here.
I'm trying not to either.
But there's just it's on both sides. It's on both sides. You just see these people and they say these things, and you just look at them. You're going, how can you be so gosh darn evil? How can you say that? How can you feel that way? And that's what blows my mind. And that's why, I reached out to you again because you're an absolute riot. You're funny and you're awesome. And I wanted to have you on again now that I'm doing video, but I wanted to talk to you about that stuff a little bit too, because
social media in general. Tell me, what did you want to talk about? Because there's so much out there. Oh my gosh, I can go on just about anything ranting.
Well, and you mentioned, everybody, a lot of these, entertainers and being perfectly possessed, and they would do whatever to get to where they wanted to be, to be these mega stars. And then you see these videos on Twitter and of the opening ceremony at the Paris Olympics, and everybody's like, oh, that's, there's satanic messages there and this and that and the other thing. And then you'll see, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Not what I'd watch. I don't really, I'm not a super religious person. But then you see these other videos where it's these politicians or these rock stars, and they're standing there and they're making these hand gestures and they're doing all this stuff, and everybody's going, that's a satanic hand gesture, and that's a satanic thing, and this is a satanic thing, and this and this and that. And you're being bombarded with all of this stimuli with these videos and these pictures and everything. And I'm sitting here going, I don't know if it is or not. It looks weird. I know the guy's not making a sign to his brothers in the Crips. And
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Jazz, you're not alone. All right. I'd say probably 90% of us out here in TV land or wherever, 90% of us are basically just trying to live our lives, do our jobs, get our kids through school, and, make a little bit of a life for ourselves. And we don't really take a look closely at what we're being exposed to. And I noticed this, when my son, and we're talking, 35 years ago, when my son was young, I noticed that, and this has been going on a long time. And what I'm talking about is the black box that was and became now our cell phones. The boob tube is now, the idiot box. It is called programming for a reason.
Right.
What you and most of all of us have become accustomed to is the dumbed down pornification of whatever purchasing agent wants you to know and wants you to think. As soon as you turn on Tinder, as soon as you turn on Facebook, as soon as you turn on CBS News, whatever political, or shall we say, major influencer, like somebody that is buying up towns in Africa to practice their little poke or jab,
Right.
they have that ability to buy the time that you're looking at and put messages for you just to be like, well, that's not my cup of tea, but it's out there. And the same can be said for the Olympics. The Olympics were, number one, the Olympics basically, if you have any faith whatsoever, it's a pagan tradition. It's not that big of a deal. If you're not, it's just one of those games. The
Right.
Olympics used to be just all about, and I did a show about this myself, Chaz. You're looking at something that was supposedly kind of wholesome because it was just kind of like competition games, which is turns into a mental illness of abnormality for people that grew up looking in their pants going, oh yeah, I know what I am. I got to get the opposite.
Right.
Now it's, I can identify as a pencil, a cup of tea, what it is, it's brainwashing, number one.
Right.
And number two, and I'm not knocking people that, truly have a gender dysphoria that they're struggling with, that could have happened to them, and they've never been exposed to TV, never been exposed to public education system, never been exposed to media. I guarantee you there is a few out there, for whatever reason, organic discourse, they're confused. Okay. This is a documentable normal or abnormal occurrence. Okay. It can be helped. However, what we've seen as an agenda, like you say, with a lot of the football games, the halftime games have a lot of, shall we say, Illuminati,
Right.
a lot of pedophile, and a lot of satanic symbols, pizzas, hot dogs, all this stuff. And I'm sorry to get really dark on you, but sadly, Satanism and this stuff is very real. It's very dark, and it's very in your face. They're no longer hiding anymore. They're right in your front room saying, this is what you've got to look like. This is what you've got to be. And if you don't accept me, well, you've got a problem, and you are the problem.
Right. And that's what and I'll throw it back to you this way. Growing up, I've not followed, but I've been fascinated with all of this stuff. I mean, I remember being 5 years old and watching The Exorcist. And the first time I watched it, scared out of my mind, because I had a older cousin babysitting us and parents were out. So it's like, hey, turn on HBO, which was like the only channel,
Oh, it was at the time. You really couldn't get 500 channels back then. It's like you had that. HBO, Cinemax, or nothing.
Right.
That's so funny.
I telling my grandkids the other day, I used to have to get up and change the channel, right? There was no remote. Now they can change it on their phone. So watching The Exorcist, first time scared the hell out of me. Second time I found it funny. I'm like, oh, this is great. She's going to puke pea soup. Right. And then, growing up watching the X-Files and Unexplained Mysteries and all of those shows. And then, I'm from Vegas. So finding Art Bell on the radio, it's like, oh, it's a local guy. And listening every night. Right. So I grew up all of this UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot.
It was fascinating because that door was open, Chaz, for us, because there were certain things when I was growing up. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 61. You could smoke, you could drink, you could do just about everything. And then all of a sudden it was like everything was shut down, and you couldn't have ads for drinking. You couldn't have ads for cigarettes anymore. And you couldn't say this and you couldn't say that. And before it was just, it was crazy. So in order to divert that, they had all these entertaining shows, such as, like you said, do you remember? I don't know. You might be too young to remember. They had like the Twilight Zone and before X-Files, but those were the ones that, those science fiction people really got people's minds thinking, what's out there? I'm not sure if you remember with the written Ray Bradbury. Oh my gosh, his mind was crazy. I guarantee you he had some experiences reading those stories. I was like, this guy's seen a few things. Art Bell, he absolutely adored Malachi Martin.
Right.
And I think they had a very good camaraderie between the two of them, because they would just back and forth, shoot it right back and forth. And I think Malachi Martin knew way more than he ever told. He knew way more than he ever wrote, too. I think that, had he truly put out what he knew, I think he probably would have been dead far sooner than he was taken out.
Right. And the key, you just said taken out. I mean, I believe that it wasn't a natural thing anyways. And so we're getting here where we're talking about Malachi Martin, and we're talking about all these things. And it's funny. I picked up on two keywords that you mentioned a little bit a few minutes ago. You mentioned pizza and you mentioned hot dogs. So now my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory is,
are you going to the pizza parties in the White House?
I'm ordering $10,000 worth of hot dogs and buns. That's what I'm doing. See, and people say, "Oh, dude, you're crazy." What was it? Comet Pizza, I think the name of it was. "Oh, you're crazy. That wasn't a real thing." And I'm sitting here going, "You're talking to a guy that swears up and down Bigfoot's real. You're not going to tell me that something like that can't happen." Exactly. I'm not saying it did happen, but I'm sit here and defend the fact that it can happen and might have possibly happened. And you're not going to sit here and tell me that that's just completely not possible. It's possible, and I got to watch my mouth.
I know. I'm watching mine too. I'm like,
stuff happens, and I really don't care. You don't have to. We're adults here. I'm just like, every once in a while I'll catch myself. So that's why I'm watching these politicians and some of the things they say. And then I'm watching these entertainers just blindly follow and defend these people that have such, for me, this is going to be a touchy subject. And we don't have to talk about it beyond this.
It's okay. If it touches me in a way I don't like, I promise I'll just close my ears and I'll have fun with it.
Okay. There are people that believe that, and this is so touchy, that babies can be born and then the mother has the right, the choice at that point to say, I don't want it. And rather than put it up for adoption, they abort it. To me, that's murder.
It is murder.
Infanticide at 9 months. And I'm sitting here going, you've got to be some sort of evil son of a bitch to say, hey, we can handle the situation and you don't have to, it's every mother's right to have the baby and go, I don't think I can handle it. And that's okay.
And let somebody else raise a child.
Right. Because there's a lot of people out there that can't have children that would absolutely love to have that baby. And they make it so difficult for somebody like that to adopt a baby. But there's those people that go, oh, we'll just kill it. Don't worry about it. No, you don't want it. It's fine. We'll just kill it. And that blows my mind. That is such an evil thing to me. And then speaking of entertainers.
Because you value life.
Right. And then you see these entertainers and, you've got like Corey Feldman, talking about how Corey Haim was abused by all of these people. And then you see these documentaries about the kids at Nickelodeon and you've got to, there's something wrong with these people that do this. Oh yeah. You want to be popular? All right. Well, pull down your pants, little boy, and climb up on that couch. No, that is evil. And there's something wrong there. And oh God, don't get me started. Is to me,
that's demonic. It is totally demonic, because to get an adult or to get someone in a position of power to abuse that power. And let me make it very, very clear here. For an adult to use a child for masturbatory purposes is not having sex with a child. And we have had for almost maybe 30 or plus years an association called MAMBLA, man and boy love. What does that mean? That these people that belong to this group believe it's perfectly normal and natural, going back centuries and decades in all cultures, that men and boys can enjoy and be active participants in a loving sexual relationship. And what they are promoting is pedophilia. What you're talking about is an evil that is created out of greed. First, with an ability for a woman to say, yeah, I know the child is to term, I don't want it, just let's have an abortion. The doctor is seeing money signs. That is the only reason the abortion industry is alive. It's satanic and it's money. Because it doesn't matter, once that fetal cell has divided, those fetal cells are worth a lot of money. So during the dilation and cutterage, where they just scrape the lining, that is saleable, that is creatable, that is aligning so many people's pockets. And that's why everybody's screaming, I want my abortion, I want my abortion. You have the right to do to your body whatever you want. God gave you that right. But to take another life, when did God say that you could take a life that was created? That's what I don't get. And this industry, one of the saddest ones, as you talk about Corey Haim and everything else, is I look at Johnny Depp and his relationship with his girlfriend, who, is now, I think she's off pills. She was an alcoholic, 5-finger discount woman. These two were in Hollywood at a young age. Everything, because as a demonologist, I look at this stuff. I look at how they talk. I look at how they hold themselves. I look at everything about them. So it's like when I go see a movie or something and somebody says, well, this person, and gives me their history, it's like, oh my gosh. You can tell the difference between actors and actresses who were groomed to be sexual masturbatory toys for the adults using them in these roles. And you can tell the few that made it out unscathed and they're just disgusted and they'll barely do the minimum role with any touching, nudity, sex, etc. But they love the acting, they love the film industry. But sadly, there's very little room for the innocence of making beautiful film. And it's very, very difficult for anybody to actually enter into singing, music. And even, I'm talking about symphony orchestras too.
Right.
Where there is money, there is temptation. And the more money, the more opportunity to get away with the gravest of evils, because no one will tell. They all just want a piece of the action.
Right. And then once somebody brings it up, like a prime example lately is when I see these videos, you see any video over the last 2 years of Britney Spears.
Oh gosh.
And whatever she went through, granted,
Yes.
they're like, okay, you're 15 or 16, you're like, your dollar signs, because every boy, prepubescent boy, every teenage boy, every man's looking at you going, hot damn.
Yes.
And she's still a beautiful woman.
Yes.
But her, whatever she's gone through has scrambled every single thing up here. And she is not okay dancing around with butcher knives. And
you talk about Britney Spears. Look at who she followed in the footsteps of. Madonna. Do you remember Madonna wearing those little gloves and being all innocent and all cute and all sweet and like a virgin? When she did that video, we knew that woman had issues, but we didn't think they were going to go to the satanic, creative heights of degradation and lewdness that she has exposed her followers to. And in the same sense that you talk about, Britney Spears, who was, young, inexperienced, and sweet, being objectified for your beauty, your sex, your whatever it is about you as an object,
Right.
creates in a mindset that you give the people that object and you make more money. It's almost like a vicious cycle that she can't get out of.
Right.
And she's locked herself in to leaving herself open to demonic oppression the rest of her life, no matter where she goes or what she does, because of what she's done and how she's allowed herself to be used and degraded.
Okay. Well, that brings up another point. You said that she's locked herself in and she's open to it for the rest of her life. How does she, is there a way that she can get herself out of that situation? Is there a way that she can clear herself of that oppression? And I know you are the exact person to talk to when it comes to this. And I know that you're just going to lay it all out for us. So fill us in on how she gets out of that situation.
Well,
this is for everybody too.
Well, the thing of it is, it's not as easy as people think, but it's really super easy, because people get it in their mind that, oh my gosh, I've literally sold my soul. I've sold my body. I've made these contracts. I've had clients that have made pacts with blood pacts, directly to Satan himself. And they think, I'm never going to get away from this. I'm never getting away from this. In order to get away from evil, and I'm going to pull Jesus out of my box now because he's always hanging out there ready to support me. That's the only real thing that you need. Now, a lot of people say, well, what if I'm Hindu, or what if I'm Buddhist, or what if I'm Jewish, or what if I'm this or that? Then your God of your faith, if he doesn't help you, guess where everybody goes when they can't get rid of the boogeties? The Catholic Church. So there must be something within that church. As I shouldn't really criticize it, but there's a lot of problems in all the churches. And the Catholic Church is suffering from the inside out with all sorts of infestations. And I don't have to go over them. I'm not going to criticize. I'm just going to say it's not easy. However, as in every religion, every faith base, there is good, there's better, there's very bad, and there is horrible. So if someone in her position truly wanted out, she would have to seek someone that she respected, she trusted, that would not tell anyone that she owes money to, she owes a pact to, she owes any part of her soul to. She would need to do it in private and in secret. Why? Because somebody that has lived their life in that sort of, shall we say, fisheye all her life, everybody's watching her. Everybody's waiting just for her just to totally fall all over herself. And I guarantee you that once a pack of demons have you imitating them, they're not going to let you go easily.
Right.
And they watch all the time. They'll know the minute she starts even thinking about getting away from them, they will start making her life more attractive. Here, go do this concert. You're going to make a lot more money. Let's go to this island. Oh, look at this man. This man is in love with you. This is how Satan's minions work. Oh, you want to step away from us? I'm going to give you way more than you ever thought possible. So in the narcissistic mind of Satan, knowing that you would possibly live without what you've already been given, it gets better and better. So for her to get away from him, she's got to, one, run screaming to the nearest person that she knows is going to get her away from what she's done. Two, she's going to have to literally, physically, vocally turn away from everything she's done. She's going to have to reject any contracts, break any contracts she's made, either with her pastor, with her priest, with someone that is well aware of spiritual warfare. Right. In order to break those contracts, she must reject it. If she does not, if she just says, well, I just, I kind of still want to sing, but, I just don't want to do that. Not going to work. Everything must be turned away from, because the devil is in the details. If
Right.
you are only halfway interested in getting free of the nightmares or whatever else, because people don't usually want to leave something. The drugs are good, the sex is fun, the traveling is great, the extra money's fabulous. They don't want to leave when things are going really good.
Right.
However, when Satan and his minions are tired of playing with you and they kind of abandon you to the will of man, which is probably like, well, you're a has-been, you're old, you're kind of done, your concerts aren't selling anymore, and your voice is croaked and gravelly from all those shots you've been doing of that nasty tequila down there in Cabo Wabo. So
Right.
we're kind of sick of you, and we're gonna have to cut your. That's when people think, oh my gosh, my life. What have I done with my life? It's time to start looking for God. It's never too late. Honestly, it's never too late to absolutely turn away from it. But the first step is rejecting everything that you have done that has led you away from God and start walking toward God. How does one do that? Number one, you're going to have to make sure that whoever you trust is going to be in a position to have you begin a walk to God by baptism.
Right.
Two, you're going to have somebody very well aware of any kind of personal prayers, binding prayers, prayers of deliverance, exorcism are done in full faith and in full authority. Because if any of these prayers, Chaz, are not done with a proper authority, they're not going to mean anything. They're going to invite more infestation and oppression, not only to the person that did them, but even worse to the person they are done over.
You've seen, there are musicians and actresses where at the height of their careers, they just walk away from everything.
Uh-huh.
They 10 years later, you're like, what happened to that person? And you find out, oh, now they're a lawyer, or now they're, an accountant or something like that. And they're out of the public eye. And then whenever somebody tracks them down, they're just said, I didn't want any part of it anymore. It just wasn't.
That's rare. That's rare, Chaz.
Right. And I was a part of the music industry for a short time. And fortunately for me, I didn't really see any of that stuff because I had joined bands that had already had a little bit of success. So I wasn't part of, hey, you got to sign this contract. Hey, you've got to do this. Hey, you've got to do that. So
Yep.
I made it out, and it was just like, hey, just going back to my normal life, and I don't remember a time where anybody really kind of pulled me to the side or, said, hey, if you do this, we can do this. I don't.
Yeah, we're going to get you that contract. We're going to open that door for you. It could
Right.
have easily happened. It could have very
Sure.
easily happened.
Sure. And I mean, I lived in LA for about 8 months and I hated it. I'm like,
Ugh.
you can't go anywhere and just sit down and have a conversation with somebody that you don't know. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
And, it's everybody's in it for themselves, but, it was just so like this, and I wanted the fame, and I wanted to be in a big band and have a nice house and drive a nice car. And I wanted all that when I was younger. But I think when I got into that field, into that entertainment industry, I was a little bit older. So then when I saw people doing things, whether it would be drugs of any type or anything like that, it just really wasn't appealing to me. I'm like, I'm already in my 30s. That's something you do when you're 21 and you're an idiot.
Exactly.
I'm in my 30s. You can pass me a joint every once in a while. That's fine. But beyond that, I'm just like, I don't need it, And having a family and all that was way more important to me, So when we get into the demonology thing, we've touched on entertainers just needing to walk away. Now, if you're not in that position where you have people and offering you the big contracts and stuff like that, and you're just a blue collar person, you go to
Mhm.
work every day and you come home and you're struggling and bad things keep happening, one thing after another, and you're not sure. I mean, being oppressed isn't even on your radar.
No, it's not, but you might be.
Right. And so how would you
How would you
find
even
out
know?
yeah, how would you know if you don't have a background in any of this?
Well, the thing of it is, Chaz, is not a lot of people, they don't equate, let's say, car problems, losing gigs, losing family relationships. They don't really equate that with being oppressed, quote unquote, per se. And I mean demonically oppressed, because a lot of people think that, well, life happens, stuff happens, I'm going to run a bad luck. And, Satan doesn't operate in luck, and neither does God. Luck is one of those wonderful, fun, man made concepts that think, well, it went great yesterday. Maybe it can go great today. And this is very much a lie of these preternatural beings that say, you're just, things will be fine tomorrow. You're just in a, bad slump. Whereas your conscious mind is saying, wait a second, I put everything into this. I gave it my all. I should have done better than this. Or there's no reason for my relative to be upset with me. I paid him back. I did what he wanted, but things are still going really, really bad. And they continue to go bad and they start snowballing. Now, does that mean you're oppressed? Maybe not necessarily. However, how do we recognize the difference? The difference between regular, life happening, because I mean, our cars are going to break down. People and relationships do break down without good communication on two levels. Our finances do take hits as we get different jobs, as we grow, or as company grows and they don't need us anymore. That is life and it does happen. However, stacking it on top of each other and 3, 4, 5 things, and it's attacking you to where you feel like you're going to be depressed, or you feel like, something's really wrong here, but you just don't know what. Maybe it's time for a spiritual tune-up. And when I say a spiritual tune-up, see, a lot of people think that, why is it, only religious people or Catholics get possessed or oppressed? Lots of people do get oppressed and possessed that are not faithful, that are not religious whatsoever. But because it seems like everyday life to them, they don't think that God could be in the mix anywhere. They don't think that, a good baptism and, a cleanup of, let's not have affairs with your neighbor. Let's not thieve from your work. Let's not do like some of the 10 commandments stuff that God says, and maybe my life will be better. They don't think that way. So the demons don't really have to go after people that have no faith, because most of the time they're already breaking 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 10 commandments that God gave Moses. Just, they don't even bother. If people are already using their own judgments to judge things and doing whatever they want and not fearing any consequences, there's no reason for them to go after them. They're making their own problems. So they're not oppressed. They are not in any way, shape, or form infested. However, the person that's trying to clean up their life, maybe they quit doing drugs, maybe they're trying to go to Bible study and see if God's real, maybe they're trying to have a level of spirituality they've never had because they didn't have parents that introduced them to that. They want something better for their insides, and stuff starts happening. That's usually when the minions are sicked on you to start making your life a little miserable, because they want you the way you were, not running away from them and their antics. So in order to find that oppression level, you have to take a look at, where am I walking? Am I walking towards someplace that is positive, loving, and in order to have a solid connection with my creator that formed me? Or am I just kind of drifting around and I really don't really know where I'm going? And boy, I just things have been tough and I'm kind of out of luck. That's the difference. If there is a spiritual element of positivity and hope, there's possibly more than just a demonic infestation. You could be targeted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, and
it is. It's just common sense. I mean, there's so many of us, I left my faith for a good long time. I wasn't worried about being oppressed or anything else like that. I was like, whatever happens. And I went through some terrible stuff. Did I think I was oppressed? No, I was like, well, I deserved it because I went right for it.
right.
I opened myself to it. However, see, this is what I mean to tell you, Chaz, about these preternatural creatures. They've watched us since before our birth. They've watched our families. They've watched our fathers, our mothers. When you were daddy's little squirt, they knew exactly, what kind of father you were going to have. They know who we are and what we're doing, but they cannot know everything. They can never read our thoughts and they can never understand our choices. They predict them. And that's when they know to send more temptation, send more minions, send more fun, send more pain. That's how, by watching us and waiting.
Right. And, being a typical guy, you're driving down the street and a pretty girl walks by and you look, but there's a huge difference between acting on it, because I know my wife notices hot guys. I guarantee it. She's not acting on it. I'm not acting when I see, a beautiful girl on the street. Every person looks, you're allowed to look. Just don't act on it. I mean, to me,
it's not even just don't act on it. This is what people don't understand, Chaz. And I just want to, since you touched on this very important subject, because this is in so many of my cases, is pornography and the use of pornography. It's destroying men and women. Why? Because we live in a pornified society. You can't walk into a Walmart or, I mean, even in my church, girls are wearing mini skirts and their tatas are hanging down to here. And it's like, yeah, you're right. People are going to look and it's just like, ooh, you look away because it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be thinking that about that person. The minute you take that second look, those things that are looking at you and watching you are going to send you more and more and more. And it happens on Tinder. It happens on, Facebook. Facebook is just like, it's solid freaking sleazy naked porn. What is it? TikTok is like, these people are supposedly clothed and you're like, that's more than they do in freaking, Mozambique, Africa. It's like, woo, in their face. And like you were saying, everybody's got a camera. And so, in a world where we're having 7 and 8-year-olds killing themselves because one of these children were pressured into sending a naked picture to somebody because they were being bribed. What's going on? That's demonic as hell. And for adults like you and I mean, if we so much as slow down over a half naked image, boom, 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 you're going to get 20 more. I guarantee it.
Right.
Just test yourself anytime you're scrolling through anything, that X channel, TikTok, Facebook. Just start looking at like blenders. You're going to get blenders in your email. You're going to get blenders here and blenders there. AI is insidiously demonic, in my opinion.
Right. Well, you notice.
Go ahead.
You brought up Walmart.
Yes.
You can go to Walmart now.
Yeah.
And you've got there's an aisle where you've got your feminine hygiene products, your male hygiene products, and right there behind a glass case, adult toys. And those used to be, when you come from Vegas, I mean, I don't know how it is where you're at, but they have adult stores where you go in there and everything's on display and you
know what? They had them growing up, but you know what? The adults didn't talk about them. I mean, they had magazines when I was growing up, and those magazines were called dirty magazines because it was like only the boys did the dirty thing in the bathroom with those magazines. I mean, that's how old I am. But it's like now it's like, it's everywhere. It's in the front rack. Your children can look at it. I mean, when I got to take my son into Walmart and he's got to look at this, this buxom babe that's like size 24 and she's, like cups and everything else hanging out. I'm like, we'll walk this way. He
Right.
he doesn't want to look at that, but that
Right.
is what they're promoting as well. That's a very nicely tailored bathing suit. Yeah. What is that going to do? Like you were saying, for some pubescent boy of 11 or 12. It's going to be like, woo, what are we here? He's not going to know. His parents aren't going to tell him, look away, because that's invitational. And the little demons are going to start following you. And pretty soon, you're going to be doing it with everybody, sticks and women and boys and everything else. The temptation is the invitation to just defiling ourselves out there. Chaz, it's horrible.
Right.
It's so horrible.
Right. And I mean, everything is just right there. I went with, and I mean, it went from like a few things like a year ago to like a whole like 10 by 6 display.
Yes. Yes.
And they make them, and they don't target them as, what they were called years ago. Now it's a personal massager, and it looks all pretty, and the boxes, and you're just sitting here going
sparkly, and it's like unicorn colors. And
right.
it's like, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure I have an idea where that goes, and a 12-year-old kid probably shouldn't see that.
No, most 12-year-old kids don't even know what that is until some other kid tells them.
Right.
Well, my dad's got one of those, and he showed me how this works.
Right. So you mentioned that they're constantly around us.
Yes, right now.
And they're constantly watching us. I mean, I could have stuff watching me right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I've gone out, because I do paranormal stuff every once in a while. I'm not sitting there with a Ouija board.
Thank goodness.
Right. And I'm not doing stuff like that, although that's the same thing as walking around. To me, I think it's the same thing as walking around with a ghost box.
It is. It
right?
is. I mean,
you're trying to
honestly, Chaz, I mean, my recently deceased husband, he believed there was some merit, and I know some priests that believe there's some merit in using these ghost box to specifically listen for human or non-human entities in a home speaking to you. That, in my opinion and in my faith belief, that's necromancy. You're speaking with something that is not alive. And people are like, well, necromancy, you're trying to help the family and in all the good. And you can argue that's good all you want. Once you've opened that door, if you don't know how to shut it, you could be in trouble. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe 6 months from now. Maybe 6 years from now. Maybe it's your children. Maybe it's your grandchildren. But I guarantee you, it will come back to haunt you.
Well, and that when you watch TV and there's all these paranormal shows on TV, right? And you've got
everybody wants to be them. Everybody wants that fame,
right? And when you watch, there's a couple of shows, one in particular where wherever they go, there's oppression and demonic activity wherever they go. And then there's other shows that their premise on the shows is helping out the families. What they don't show, there's a few things they don't show, and maybe you can help me out with this. They don't show how at the end of the investigations, they close that door, if they do at all, that you're talking about. They're opening themselves up. How do they close themselves off at that point? And then the other thing they don't show is when they're helping these families, what happens after they leave. That's never gets shown. So if they've opened the door, if you open the door, and you're helping me here too. Mm-hmm. If I go somewhere and I initiate contact, and then 3 or 4 hours later, I'm done, how do I close that door when I'm leaving? And then this will help the people that I'm going to help as well. How do we close that door once we're leaving a paranormal investigation?
If you have no faith, if you have no relationship with your creator, and if you have no basis with which to call upon your own preternatural protection, you don't close that door. You wave some sage, you throw some salt, and whatever you want to do, and think, oh well, the door's closed. I'm sorry, that's a load of bull pucky. No, you have only one way to close the door. Christ said it best. Just say no. Use his name and say, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. I reject you. This door is closed. You may not cross this threshold. If you say that with faith, that door's closed. Period. If you do not have faith, then basically it's like, it would be like me saying, well, I'm taking this voodoo chicken and I'm going to throw it at my neighbor and my neighbor's going to look at me again. What does it mean? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's a chicken thrown in the air. And the same thing happens with faith. And is that belittling people that don't have faith? No, it's just telling them honestly and realistically, anything that you use, and especially, for a lot of people that do use sage and do use, salt, thinking, these old wives' tales and these old superstitions. Does it work? It might for 30 minutes or 30 days. Do you know why? Because these little demons love to play games with you. Sure, we'll go away for a day or two, but wait till you see us come back. It's going to be more fun. Beetlejuice, here we come. Because, it's nothing but, fun and fairy tales. However, as you see in everything, and that's another thing, I was talking with an exorcist I know, because he used to do shows. I've done some shows, and a lot of them Kenneth used to do, and I really don't want to do them, basically because I refuse to do scripted shows. And the more elaborate and the more, shall we say, over the top you can be, that's what their viewers want to pay for. I'm not interested in being a paid scripted actress for any sort of demonic entity, period. And if somebody is going to go in and specifically open those doors, they must figure out a way to protect themselves, their soul, their family's soul, and their future generation soul. Because if they don't, there will come a time they're going to wonder why they didn't think about that when they started. I've got a book I wrote about 8 years ago, Chaz, called Haunted Investigations, where I talk about the importance of having a relationship with God, and the importance of, if you're going to do this sort of work, if you don't have a relationship, you're basically kind of playing with an Ouija board, because you're not sure what you're going to open. You're not sure what you're going to open and have follow you home. What is going to happen? You can't, and not that you're going to have that much knowledge of knowing what you're opening if you do get baptized, if you do develop a relationship. There is only one way of knowing that, hey, guess what? I don't want this stuff. You rebuke it, you reject it, you need use the name of Christ and say, done, over with. And does that tell you that you're not going to be dealing with demonic tomorrow? No. Does that tell you you're not going to encounter haunting? No. But what is it going to do? It's going to protect your sleep. It's going to protect your family. It's going to protect you physically. And then when the nasty stuff starts happening, like maybe your finances or, three things get stacked on you, you're going to call somebody like me, or you're going to call, your pastor, your priest, and you say, how do I stop this? And you're going to get the appropriate prayers and the appropriate steps to close your house, your mind, your home, and anything, so that you do not have to feel uncomfortable. And I have to say right now, Chaz, to all the audience and everybody that's listening right now, so many people think that, well, I'm called to help people. I'm called to do this and I'm called to do that. Why? Who called you? Just because we see something, I might see somebody riding an elephant and going across the safari in Africa and think, oh, I'm called. I want to go do that. And I enjoy doing it, but that doesn't mean that is where I'm really called to be. Just because we enjoy something and something, looks like we could use some of our talents to go do that, does not mean. And the harder your finances and the more difficult it is for you to do this, I tell a lot of investigators, it's really, really difficult enough having a full-time job, paying your bills, trying to live a life, much less meddling in the preternatural. without a relationship with God. And a lot of people, I got psychics, and I got Native Americans, and I've got this, and I've got a Jewish, and I've got a Hindu person. They have every faith on their team. It's like, well, that's nice. I mean, stick apples, rhubarb, pecans, and lemons and oranges in a pie and taste it, spit it out.
Right.
Demons don't care. They either know where you stand or where you don't stand, and you're nothing more than a chess piece for them to play with. That's the sad thing. So in some ways, a lot of us are very blessed by that old adage, God watches over drunks and sinners, especially because sometimes, we do a lot of things that we don't understand are so demonically invitational that we don't wake up until sometimes we see somebody else that's been hurt, or we start having nightmares, or something so strange. We go to a restaurant with a friend of ours, and we look at a table and we see somebody's eye go completely black. And we look at our friend, did you see that? No, they didn't see that, but you certainly did. And you did, because you feel cold, dead in your soul.
Right.
When stuff like that start to happen, you start to take a closer look and say, well, maybe it's time to get baptized. Maybe it's time to not do what I was doing with those spirit boxes for the last 2-3 years. Maybe it's not really helping. But a lot of people don't do that, Chaz. Usually things have to get pretty darn miserable for people to stop doing what they find comfortable, entertaining, and what they think they're doing to help. That's the biggest lie the devil does is, we have all these demons saying, oh, yeah, you're wonderful. You're doing a great job. These people couldn't do it without you. You remember you were saying about the shows? People walk away. What happens? The sad case is, and I've been in contact with so many people that have been on these shows, it gets worse. It goes from bad to worse. They lose their faith. They lose their families. People commit suicide. Now, even though you tell people that people have free will, and that's probably not demonic, but it might have been demonically induced, they don't pray. They don't continue that relationship with God, or they cling to it and they get some peace. Because for those of you that are not familiar with faith and religion, we're not promised a wonderful life here. We don't belong here. This is not our home. Our home is somewhere else with our Creator. And this is kind of like our trying ground. This is our beginnings, where we get to basically be toddlers and learn how to be strong and learn how to face some of the most difficult things that may even be more difficult when we leave here, because there is a hereafter and there is an everlasting life. As much as there is a God, I know I've drowned twice, but I'm still here. Does that mean that, you're going to go to hell if you don't know God, if you don't know Christ? No, because, that's the beautiful thing, is that God sees inside all of our hearts, Chaz. It's the intentions of a man's heart that basically tell God whether he's coming in that door or not.
Right.
And those people that don't know, have never heard of God and never heard of Jesus, I guarantee you some of these non-denominational Baptist, Catholic, but what the heck are those people doing here? Those people had a heart for other people.
Right.
They did God's work. So, these people that really want help, they can call 20 ghost busting teams. They can call, a demonologist. They can call, 3 different pastors in. If they're not going to do the work themselves and say, go away, I'm done with you. Christ says I'm done with you. It's going to keep coming back and back. And it'll get worse every time. That's the biggest problem I have.
Right. And I know there's the show Dead Files.
Yes.
Where she comes through and she, does a walkthrough and tells them, okay, you got some seriously bad stuff here. You can deal with this. You're just going to have to do these things, and then they would show a clip at the end of the show from like 30 days later, the people going, hey, we did exactly what you recommended and things have been so much better. And then some episodes they'll show clip, where it's, hey, they didn't do anything that I told them to do. And now it's gotten worse and they're getting a divorce and this and this and this,
Yeah.
all these bad things. And, you made me think about something here. Whereas when I was growing up, we didn't go to church,
Mm-hmm.
and being a dumb kid, you'd take your BB gun and you'd shoot a bird, or, never shoot a dog or a cat or anything like that, but you'd shoot a bird out of a tree, and you do stupid stuff like that. And then as you get older and you have a family and you have your own pets, where you have a cat, and you have a dog, and you have these things, you can't imagine doing any of that stuff anymore. Like for me, it's like, oh man, I don't want to step on that ant. I don't want to do that stuff. But then you see somebody, that you might work with that you just cannot stand, and you just don't care what happens to that person because they've made your life miserable. You're just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But then every other person at work, you don't want to see them go through anything horrible. But there's that one person you're just like, that person's driving me nuts. I don't care. I don't care. All my caring is taken up by all the people I actually care about, And then part of you thinks, well, maybe I shouldn't be that way about that person either. But you're just like, that person's driving me nuts, and does that make me a bad person? I don't know. I think that
it makes you a regular, healthy person with a heart that cares for other people, that's very highly irritated with jerks and
thank you,
gobshites.
Right. So you brought up people that are just inherently bad and oppressed, and there's just no good about them. I'm going to say this is probably 8 or 9 years ago. My wife and I are walking through Walmart, and this guy comes around the corner pushing his cart, and he was gray. Just, there was no color to his skin. He was just gray. And my wife looks at me and she looks at him. She's like, that guy's going to die. And I look at her and I'm like, I don't know. I said, that guy, there's something completely different about this person compared. It was almost like those old movies, the black and white movies, where they just add color to one thing. Like in Schindler's List, where the at the very end, it was a little girl in the red jacket, right?
Yeah.
That was the exact opposite. This guy was in black and white compared to everything else. Now, he may have been really ill. I don't know. But now you've got me thinking, and now I'm like, I wonder if that guy had some serious attachments. Maybe it was oppressed. Maybe he was one of the perfectly possessed people and just didn't care about anything else but himself. I don't know. That's a possibility, I guess.
Well, Chaz, it's interesting that you brought that up. I'm thinking that person that you saw that was in such a high contrast of absolute gray, no color to these other people could be any number of things. Because you were talking about perfectly oppressed, perfectly possessed people, they're going to look just like me. They're going to be happy. They're going to be laughing. They're going to be giggling. If they are truly perfectly possessed and they are not, the devils aren't done using them, they're going to look like your neighbor. They're going to look like, your boss at work. They're going to look like your pastor at your church. They're going to look like they're going through life just like you, same struggles. Maybe chances are have a little bit more than you as far as monetarily, financially, though. You'd be amazed how many perfectly possessed are absolutely homeless, and because they're just so lost. When we have people we see, like this, that have just no color, no pallor whatsoever to them, chances are there's two things going on. Like your wife said, this person is probably very close to death, having no circulation whatsoever. Two, that you both saw this person. I'm sure other people saw this person too and thought, wow, what's wrong with them? They could have a rare skin disease where they do not get out in the sun because they cannot tan, they cannot be outside, and hence their skin gives off a strange glow. They may have something that they don't even know what's going on, and they live by themselves and they don't see it. It's really, really difficult to tell. And even, just a chance encounter, whether they were smiling or they were not smiling, the perfectly possessed people are usually running from me. They're usually bicycling away from me. They don't want anything to do with me. But, people that are just depressed and whatever else, and even somebody like this is usually attracted to me, or they want to talk to me, or they for whatever reason, they want contact. So that this person didn't approach you or didn't talk to you it's kind of sad. It sounds like the person was very, very, very sick. And
Right.
I have a tendency to think, from what you and I have talked about and what I have witnessed in the last 6 decades of my life, we have seen, and don't get me wrong, as much of a conspiracy theorist I am, in the closet or out of the closet, the things that I'm saying right now, not only do I believe with all my heart, but I've seen. We have supposedly the greatest nation on earth. It's probably not anymore because of the interior attacks, the open borders, the total dissemination of our military. We have seen our food, which was the best in the world, be shipped to overseas. We're accepting food from overseas. We're not feeding our own people. And what we are feeding them is glyphosates, the fluoride in our system. Our entire system in America is designed for us to be dependent on pharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical drugs, vaccines. So we are basically alive to serve a system and feed into a tax system that depresses and drains us. If that's not demonic, I don't know what is. And, currently I'm watching, I don't know if anybody else is watching this. It's really cute on Netflix, which I said I was going to get rid of, but I can't because I love Norsemen too much. But we're watching this show about Wyatt Earp, and it's really interesting how they brought in the Bilderbergs and all the wealthy families that were interested in America back just right at the beginning of the railroad. And I used to be a step-on guide up in the logging camps in Michigan. So I understand how the wealth, outdoor or outside wealth of the United States, shaped the country. But this shaped our nutrition. It shaped our public schools to program children. Now, now we have children that they don't go to school to get a trade or support their family, to be by their family. They go and they can't stand their family, and they're torn by, political thoughts and overseas thoughts. And they're eating all this garbage that has destroyed their gut biome, twisted their mind. The fluoride has destroyed their neurobiogenesis in their mind because it's a neurotoxin, and they don't know which end is up. And people think, well, our youth, these last 2-3 generations, are they demonically oppressed? Are they possessed? Or are they just ill-informed? And we look at from the outsider's point of view, and Russia's Vladimir Putin has not only made it illegal to grow GMO food crops or have that going on, he has made it a punishable crime. You will be labeled a terrorist if you grow genetically modified crops. We've been feeding this to our children and ourselves for 30 years now, and now it has to be labeled. So I tell everyone, any one of our listeners, anyone, do your best to eat as organic as you can. Do your best to make choices. Do not drink the fluoridated water. Drink bottled water, drink well water, get a filter that filters out the fluoride. Do your best to become aware. Who's your neighbor? Where are your kids? Where's your family? Be involved in what's going on in your community, because we're being torn. We're being ripped apart from the inside out, literally. By who? Well, we could say they this, they this, they this, they that. The people that are making the money are laughing all the way to the bank.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
this has been going on for years.
decades,
Yeah.
decades.
And you sit here and you watch them basically, and this is especially over the past 5 or 6 years, this virus comes out.
Oh gosh.
And they say you have to comply
Yep.
or you are a murderer. You are the problem. You are murdering people because you will
In
not.
the churches too. And these
Right.
people are supposed to be peddling love and Jesus.
Right.
Hello.
Right. If you do not get this shot, you are causing millions of people.
You're the problem. You're the
Right.
problem. You're passing it. You're
If you
spreading
do
it.
not do not have this app on your phone that tracks who you've been around,
Yep.
you can go to jail. If you keep your business open,
Yes.
we're gonna shut down your business and throw you in prison. Right? All of that. And come to find out that shot after all these years of some of us saying, I'm not getting that shot because it's not going to do me any good. Not going to do me any
Nope.
good, right? I'm not doing the shot.
Mm-mm.
Now it comes out, well, that shot caused this football player to have a heart attack and die on the field. That shot caused this high school basketball player to die right there on the court. That shot caused this.
Yes.
But guess what? Because we did it in a certain way, you can't sue us. You can't do anything about it. Now we admit that this shot wasn't what it was supposed to be, but you can't do anything. Now, to me, that's demonic.
It is.
That's like you are trying to force this down my throat by saying I'm the problem, but then you sent sick people into nursing homes.
Yes. Yes.
You sent all of these people, you sent sick people around all of these elderly people and killed all these elderly people. You should be in prison. You should be the one swinging from a rope out in front of the wherever. That's my thoughts.
And
now,
sadly, Chaz, your opinion is in the minority.
right.
Because people want to drink the Kool-Aid. They want
Right.
to believe that they're living in this wonderful world. It's a delusion and it's an illusion. It's about to explode.
Right. I'm pretty much positive if I had Morpheus sitting in front of me, I'm taking the red pill. That's just how it is. Because growing up, watching all of these shows and reading, I used to be a voracious reader. I used to read books. And then as you grow older, I just don't. Now it's podcasts. And
I know you don't have the time. You
Right.
don't have the time.
I
It's
don't
like
have the time
plug in
anymore.
a poke up. Yes, exactly.
Right. But my programming was,
So was mine. I don't know about that. You were
Right.
rare. You were brought up to ask questions. So was
Right.
I. I was brought up to question the man. Nope. Authority?
Right.
I don't think so.
So now the biggest thing over the last few years is, hey, I'm going to have this parade and I'm going to do story time at a library for little kids, right? And it's a touchy subject. I know, but
It's not
always
touchy to me. I'm sorry. I think it's mental illness. But
Right.
and people have unsubscribed from my channel because I stand firmly that this is not sanity. This is not normal.
Well, my view, and it's always been this way, I don't care what you want to do in the comfort of your own home.
Me too. Go do it.
If you are a man and you want to be with a man, that's perfectly fine. More power to you.
I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that. Go do it.
If you're a woman, wants to be with a woman, that's fine. There's a few lines you do not cross.
Yes.
You don't do it with an animal.
Or children.
Or children have no business being subjected to a
No.
guy marching in a parade in leather with his stuff
No.
for the world
Mm-mm.
to see.
None.
No,
None
none.
whatsoever.
And you know what? You're not going to sit here and tell me that I'm keeping you down, because I'm not. You are not going to force me to accept that.
No.
I accept
No.
you doing it in the comfort of your own home. There's places that you can go where that's accepted. That's perfectly fine. If you come up and try to pick me up, I'll graciously, decline. Hey, I get it. I'm
Yes.
not really that type of person. No harm, no foul. You haven't
No,
offended
that's
me.
fine. Go the
But
other way. Exactly.
as soon as you bring little kids into it, I have a problem. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of people that have a problem. And then as soon as you say, oh, well, guess what? Because you don't feel the way that I feel, you're the
Yeah.
problem. That's not how that works. That's not
No.
how that works. And to me, that when you make it a point to involve little kids in that, in my mind, I consider that that's demonic to me. Whether it actually is or not, I don't know. Whether you would classify it as demonic or not, I don't know. To me, it is, because I just can't fathom how anybody could ever feel under any circumstances that would be okay. That's okay to do.
Let me tell you what the exorcists say. Okay, not just my opinion, but
Right.
a lot of the exorcists I work with, will come out and tell someone that this idea of the gender dysphoria, believing that you're not your right gender in your body, the idea of transgenderism, you cannot change if somebody is born a physical male or a physical female. Once they've reached puberty, there are puberty blockers that can be applied, which is totally demonic. You should never do that to a child under the age of 13, that will alter their adolescent growth, but it does not change the XX chromosome or the XY. It cannot do that. So no matter
Right.
how many additions, parts you glue on, try on, sew on, doing that does not make you so. You cannot put a cow's head on a zebra and call it a cow. It's not going to work. You can't take,
Right.
a lion's jaw and insert it on a shark and say, well, that's now a lion. It's still a shark. And it's called demonic delusion. And for whatever reason, it's the basis is the destruction of the family. Man and woman were told to go and procreate, go and fill the earth up with loving souls that are going to support each other, love each other, and make beautiful communities and be happy. When you have people that are engaging in relations with each other, they're not procreating, they're not having babies. However, in the drive that was given to them by the creator to nurture and have that family, they're buying babies, or they're paying other couples to have babies, and they're bringing these babies into a not right situation and creating more problems. So the demonics have gotten their way to make people think that, the family can now include Henry, David, and his 3 children, and Lori and Maxine and her 5 children. This is still a family. Now, when I grew up, it didn't matter what sexual orientation, whether you were drunk, whether you were a reformed thief or whatever. If you were family, and if you were coming in my house, grandma's house, you were loved, you were family. Didn't matter. But we
Right.
did not have at the time people having shall we say unusual sex on the front lawn, or
Right.
on our TVs in the living room at night,
Right.
or swapping spit at the OK Corral, or women, fondling each other in places that, I didn't want my child doing after he was 2 years old,
Right.
after you nurse a child. So when the normalization of this demonic agenda tells your average viewer that this is normal and this is what we ought to accept and this is what we ought to look for. The destruction of the family, the destruction of the wholesome unit meant to support a child is gone. And what happens when you destroy the children? There are no future families. There's no happy families. There's no more people that are loving each other and growing and walking together toward that end game of next being with God and being out of here. We've become empty, devoid.
Right. And you've got these families now and there's demographics and statistics that there are families where, you know, there's not a male role model present. Then those families, those people that are in that situation are more likely to have these things happen, or more likely to fall in line to certain behaviors and stuff like that.
Depression, alcoholism, theft, drugs, prison, murder, gangs.
Because there wasn't a strong family
unit. There's no authority. And without that authority structure, you cannot have a family. And, you know, a lot of people bash me because I say, you know, well, she's conservative and, you know, she thinks, you know, women are just this and this and that because, you know, the man rules the household. If you do not honor that structure of the man being the head of the house, you don't agree with me, that's fine. Anytime a woman usurps the head of the household, you have problems with the children, you have problems with the marriage, and you have problems with anything positive coming out of that household. One person must hold the authority. And it doesn't mean men and women aren't equal. It just means that there's a bottom line who gets to say, okay, we agree this is going to happen. And everybody else falls in line. So I'm unpopular. However, the same thing exists in any structure. Whether it's corporate, whether it's, you know, business, office, there must be a level of authority that everybody follows, everybody comes under. The demons recognize that authority. Why don't we as humans?
Right. Well, that goes back into, like, you know, there was always a king and a queen.
Exactly.
And then boom.
Pages, knights, lords. Exactly.
Right. And now, you know,
we lost that, Chaz. We've given it up.
Right.
For the greater good.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that anymore. Like, especially, like I said, you know, there's not a father figure. There's not a male figure in the house. And there's, you know, these problems that it just kind of, you don't think, oh, you know, mom's got it handled. That's perfectly fine. But there's going to be, chances are you're more likely to have these certain problems.
Exactly. And recurring, you know, and accelerating and just getting so much worse.
Well, now you've got these kids, even that kids that are in that situation, or they come from a family where there's a father and a mother. The parents have to work so much that the kids are left to their own devices. And now the kids feel that they're being subjected to all these things, you know, oh, you have rights and you've got this and you've got that. And we don't have to tell your parents if you want to change your gender. So now these kids feel entitled to everything. They have no respect for authority. No. They have no respect for adults. It's just like, hey, you've got to show me respect before I show you respect. And guess what? That's not how that works when you're a child.
No, it doesn't work when they get in the real world like that. This started 45 years ago, Chaz, when I was in high school in Washington State, all along the East Coast or the West Coast and the East Coast. Schools started having, what was it? Sexual ed that you didn't have to tell your parents about. You could get the pill. You could get free access. By the time, I think it was, what was it? You were like in 9th or 10th grade. Your counselor would get you a bus to get you access to any kind of birth control you wanted. And your parents would not be told. Right. And When my parents found out, they had me in a religious school and then they put me in this public school, they raised holy hell. They said, what kind of school is this? And they said, well, this is a law and we have to protect our other students so that we don't have unwanted pregnancies. They don't get STDs. We have to educate them. My mother said, I don't think so. She says,
Right.
and, she tried, to get on city council and everything else, but this was already starting 25 years ago. And now we've come so far as kids, the government is now taking children out of the home because the parents are refusing to let them change their gender.
Right.
At 7 and 8 years old, are you crazy?
Well, that falls in line to, they say, oh, the kid knows that at 7 or 8 years old, they don't want to be a boy. They're not a boy. They want to be a girl. So we're going to take your child because you're not going to let that happen. That's child abuse. We're going to take your child and the state's going to pay for the child to have that surgery. Okay, but that child's not old enough to vote. That child's not old enough to drink, drive a car, anything like that. But they're old enough to know that they don't want to be a boy anymore. So what happens? That child goes through that surgery and goes through the puberty blockers and all that. And what happens later on in life? That child, when they're a teenager, commits suicide.
And sometimes sooner than that. There's a movie out right now, Chaz. There's a movie out about, and they've interviewed a lot of these children that have had this surgery and how they wish they could go back. They wish nobody told them. They were pushed through it. I mean, I've even seen some interviews with, who is that famous guy, Jenner? He was, the famous athlete. Yeah, Caitlin. Bruce Jenner. Caitlin. Well, I don't call him Caitlin because I don't recognize him as Caitlin. I grew up with him as Bruce on my cereal box of Wheaties.
Right.
And supposedly on his operating table, they didn't give him a choice. They said, you have to do this. He can't go back. There is no going back. That's demonic. That's a demonic agenda.
He's
an adult.
Right. And I don't ever recall him saying definitively whether he went through the full, the full
procedure to completely take everything off. Yes.
Right.
I don't know.
But see, and we came on here to talk about demonology and this.
And it is demonology. It's disgusting. It's a demonic agenda.
Right.
It's like if people can't see that, I pray they open their eyes before it's too late, Chaz.
Right. And these people are slowly walking towards that cliff because all the other lemmings.
Everybody else is going there. It's like, come on, let's go. Let's go. It looks so great in front of us. Everybody's having such a good time. Let's go try it. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and this is a tough question. I mean, I think we're aligned in a lot of ways, and rather kind of keep the politics out of it. But it's hard because it's such a big part of this whole thing now.
It is hard.
How to me it
how
just
do we vote? How do we look at our politicians? Is that your question?
No, like how? Well, my first question was going to be, how do we fix this? But that's such a broad question.
You and I can't fix this because, if you think about it, these problems are beyond our scope. They're beyond our pay grade. These problems have been here 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. These problems have challenged most cultures. And we can't fix the bigger problems. What can we fix? We can only affect our households. We can try and affect our communities. We can stay in touch with like-minded individuals that believe as we do, that want to be good people as we do, that want to pursue faith as we do, and want to have a higher level of integrity in making decisions about the community, about the educational system, about how we eat in our own community, our local CSAs, our local farm crops, who do we allow in office? You want to talk about demonology and how the demons work. There is a saying in some circles that, we get the leaders that we deserve. And a lot of them are really evil. So does that mean we deserve evil leaders? No, it just means that the good people have said nothing for so long, and we've stood back and said, we can handle it, Sorry, but that time's come to an end. It's time for each one of us to look at what we can do in our community, how we can volunteer, how we can help our children, how we can take our talents and volunteer at the boys' club or the girls' club, how we can, support local people, local businesses, how we can, use our time with our children and get them involved, help out at soup kitchens, help out at certain places, because our children need to see who we are. And right now, this world, it just, it's pretty bloody full of demons.
Right. And okay, so you mentioned the world. So what I've noticed over, and you'll see, and everybody's going to look at me with my conspiracy hat on when I say the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
Okay. And people who don't think like I do and have their own beliefs don't see that at all. They're just like kind of like almost like they're blind in the sense, and I'm the crazy one because I'm sitting here going, no, dude, you're not seeing it. Things are really bad, but I think a lot of people are starting to see that now, and they're starting to rise up against that. And it's not that we want these big wars or anything like that.
No.
They're starting to band together and point now. Whereas before, like you said, we can handle it. Nah, no big deal. And now people are starting to go, whoa, did you see that? I'm telling you that is going on. This is not okay. And you're seeing that all over the world, whether it be in France where people are rising up, or Venezuela and Brazil where people are going, hey, no, we didn't vote for that. We don't want that. No. And these people are taken to the streets, and you're seeing a lot more of that now. And unfortunately, well, I'm going to say fortunately and unfortunately, in this country, you've got a group of people that are pointing, but then you've got the media and you've got every other single thing going, nah, you're crazy. That's not how that is.
Programming. It's paid programming.
Oh, dude. No.
Yep.
And so for me, like you brought up with the entertainment and I mean, how I'm just sitting here going, how do I convince somebody to open their eyes and see exactly what's going on when they're just so used to just kicking back going, man, this is life. That's how it is. You keep
doing what you're doing, Chaz. You have a forum right here. You have a forum to do your own research and to bring on articles and people who have witnessed things that a lot of people would never know about unless they came and listened to one of your podcasts. I can't tell you the number of pastors and even priests that tell me, oh, demons aren't really, they're not active on this earth. It's like, demons are, that's a thing of the Bible. However, they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to come bless a home with me. And so in the back of their mind, the people that you're trying to wake up and help, they know there's something wrong with it. They don't want to, they're not ready to face it. And that's what, all of us face when we want to help somebody that refuses to be helped. They're not ready. They're not ready.
Right. That makes all of the sense in the world. That makes all of the sense in the world. When you've got somebody like you brought up, pastors that like, hey, can you come with me? I need to bless his house. No, I'm not going in there. Okay, well, you want me to believe in God, and you want to tell me that God and Jesus is real. Well, for every white, there's a black. For every yin, there's a yang. So if this dude's up here trying to make sure everything's okay, but letting people free will, then there's somebody down here going, hey, we're going to use that free will a different way.
Yep.
And you've got people then that say, well, if there really is a God, then why does that baby have cancer? So that's tough too.
It is.
For
It
people
really,
to
really
wrap
is.
their heads around, and it's unfortunate. I don't really have an answer for that, and I don't think a lot of people do.
No, they don't. And I'll tell you exactly what I tell people in Exorcist. God gave every single person free will. He doesn't will that babies get raped. He doesn't will that you should get cancer. He doesn't will any of this horrible, evil stuff that happens the way it does. Our bodies are not meant to live here forever. Our souls live on forever. Nothing
Right.
can touch our souls as long as we hold on to our faith and the goodness in our divine being that we were given. However, people, we look at any number of horrible things that happen, the murdering, the molestations, the kidnappings, and everything else. God doesn't will that to happen. However, the evil of some man's heart willed it to happen and made it happen. Does that mean that God doesn't cry? No, he doesn't want that.
Right.
Never.
Right. Well, we've done an hour and 47 minutes.
Well, us, we can all night long. We got to be careful.
And
we just go on and on and on. Our spouses are going to be like, hey, I'm holding the bottle here, dear. What's going on?
You know what's funny? This didn't go the way I thought it would go. It went better. Because
well, that's a good thing to hear.
Because I had it in my mind. Okay, I'm going to have you talk about what demonology is. Then I'm going to have you talk about some cases you've been on and how you've helped some people. And we never even got to the cases. So that's going to be show number 2.
I didn't get a chance to talk about some of my cases. It's like 95% of my cases, I'm crying my eyes out. Right. It's like I tell those cases that have made it through. I'm like, I am so proud of you and thank you for staying in touch. We didn't even get to talk about that. We're just talking about the demonics in the world.
Right. So that's going to be show number 2.
That's so wild.
We'll make that happen.
Yeah, sometime down the line, anytime you just call me, I'll fill in.
I've got to tell you that you've opened up my eyes to a lot of things, and it made me start thinking about stuff going on around me too.
Great.
And I appreciate that, and I can't thank you enough for that, because this whole thing, it's just, I know, like I said, we're on the same page on a lot of things.
We really are.
And
I believe in Bigfoot too.
See, there you go. There you go.
I swear I saw Bigfoot when I lived in the Pacific Northwest. Nobody believes me, but it's like, I could have sworn I saw Bigfoot, even though there's no proof. I want to believe Bigfoot's real.
Right.
But let me have my faith. He's real somewhere.
Right. So he's real. He's absolutely 100% real. So you mentioned you wrote a book. So is that book available on Amazon?
No, not yet. Not yet. It's called Haunted Investigation. I've got a lot of books that I co-wrote. Ken was alive. He wrote the Catholic Demonologist. That's available on Amazon right now. You can also go to our website, www.swordsofsaintmichael.org, and find books. I helped write the Catholic Demonologist, as well as a couple other haunting help self-guide and house blessings. This one for Haunted Investigation, I'm really needing to polish off, Chaz. Maybe when I finish it, maybe I can give you a hey-ho heads up and you can take a look at it and tell me what you think.
Absolutely.
And we can talk about it. But that's more a hands-on practical guide. It kind of reads like a recipe book on, making sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. If you're going to put together a team, approach it from nothing less than, like, if you're putting together a pro ball team together and you want it to do the best you can, this is how you're going to approach it. And this is how you're going to do it. And I've had to change some chapters because, there's a lot of unknowns in there, especially with the incidence of autism and mental illness on the rise. We have a
Right.
lot of cases with, investigations that are involving children that have been molested, children that are born addicted, children that have autistic. So I'm changing some of the chapters and I'm re-gearing it. And it was only available by special order. I'm praying to have it on Amazon by the end of this year because I've got a lot going on. Still healing from a back break. I broke my back 2 years ago. But I'm really excited about haunted investigations because so many people are, they're interested with all this stuff on TV. I'd like them to see a little bit more serious and maybe do a front, this is, be careful before you get into it. And then in the end, if you really feel you're called, find a mentor, find a pastor, find a priest, find a mentor that's going to help walk you into this,
Right.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So, Swords of St. Michael.
Swordsofstmichael.org.
All right.
Swords of St. Michael.org. Yeah, there's books available. There's great binding prayers, deliverance prayers, videos, all kinds of stuff. Because I have a YouTube channel, swordsofstmichael.org, where I do a lot of stuff. I break down movies and I say, can demons really do that? And then I talk about the movie and I say, oh, yeah, they can do that. Oh, no, that's fiction. That's Hollywood. Oh, yeah, they can do this. I had a lot of fun with that, Chaz.
So one of the last questions I'm going to throw at you here real quick is obviously with the movie The Exorcist and how it was groundbreaking and it was just, I mean, that movie scared the hell. People were physically getting ill in the movie theaters watching that movie, and I'm sure the had a lot to do with it too, right? But,
yes.
I mean, and then we've got like the Exorcism of Emily Rose and other movies like that. I mean, can it get that bad? Have you seen it that bad before?
Yes, and I honestly have to say I have not seen levitation yet. I have seen it get really bad to where I thought somebody was going to die and we were going to need to call a doctor. Exorcisms and deliverance, which I've been involved in for many years, can involve people's faces changing and they physically look different. It can involve involuntary spasm. It can involve one of the people praying, puking, and actually manifesting with, demonic, an instant demonic step in. And even though the person is good, they love God, they're good with their Christian, their baptism and everything. So there was a lot of stuff in The Exorcist, and I did do a breakdown of that movie on Swords of St. Michael on YouTube. There was a lot of Hollywood involved in that. The Exorcism of Emily Rose was 100% accurate. And it was so very sad how all of a sudden it hit her when she went to college. And she offered her body up literally, for some of the suffering, just absolutely tortured souls that had gone through this kind of oppression. And so she allowed herself to be an example of her sacrifice because she knew her soul was forever and the demons couldn't touch it. And God already loved her. She was baptized and everything else. So she was fine. She suffered. It was very, very sad. But yeah, that kind of stuff happens.
Wow.
Rarely, but it happens. For like every, I'd say probably 250 calls I get, one person is truly, absolutely, horribly infested to the point I'm scared and I'm like calling and I'm doing something. Everything else, mostly I can help or I can make connections for. Those are rare cases. Very rare, Chaz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've got swordsofstmichael.org and you've got books on there. There's books on Amazon.
Yes.
I'm going to put up links to those so everybody can check those out.
Thank you. And my YouTube channel, Swords of St. Michael. Lots of deliverance video, lots of Latin prayers, lots of self-help, exorcism stuff, and those cool movies that you thought you really loved. Can demons do that? Whole series on that kind of fun stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, whether you've been in here and watched this tonight or you watch this later when it goes up on other platforms, because we are live on YouTube and Facebook right now.
Woohoo!
Woo! So everybody, I'm going to post up some links and we'll send people there and they can watch some of your videos, and I'll share some of the videos as well.
And you send me a link so I can share this on a couple of my videos that I do on YouTube and stuff too.
I absolutely will. And again, you're on the hook for part 2, so we can get into some more of those cases.
Get into the darker parts.
Right. And I can't say how much I appreciate this. This has been awesome.
Oh,
this
thanks,
has been so much fun, and I knew it was going to be fun no matter where we went. And we didn't go.
You didn't go where you thought we were going to go, but boy, we went some places, didn't we?
Yes, we did, and that was awesome.
We went some places tonight. Wow,
we did. So thank you. Now go get some of that go-go juice that we were talking about.
Juice with my hubby. Thank you, guys. God bless you all, and thank you, Chaz, for the opportunity to share my faith and share my love of helping people.
You
have a great night.
You too. Take care, Farah.
Thanks.
See you later. Till next time. Bye.
Yes. Bye.
All right. I'm kind of speechless. I don't really know. It's just I'm on like a high right now of all that information she threw at me, and she really corroborated a lot of things that I've been thinking about what's going on in the world these days and what I'm watching and seeing on TV with, these entertainers and these politicians. She really kind of put that in perspective for me and made me feel that what I've been thinking might not have been so crazy and conspiratorial, because now the way she put it, it makes a lot of sense. And you hear these stories where there are people who's behind the scenes pulling the strings, and, you starting to hear that so much more now. And she's kind of put that in perspective. So again, Farah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for spending your time with me tonight. And everybody, swordsofsaintmichael.org. Please go there. I will post up a link. We'll go to her YouTube channel, watch her videos. I have no doubt that you will be entertained by what she has to say, and it will make you think and make you reevaluate a little bit. Definitely will. So again, until next time, I'm going to leave us with this last video here, as I always do. Until next time, have a great night, and get this going. Hand over heart, hand on head. Here we go. You just listened to the Ear Mob Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow.